All right, I'm in New York this week visiting a friend, and I hope you appreciate the dedication of still getting a video out to you guys, because filming in public is quite cringe. And in this city of all places, I tried to find the emptiest place of all, which hardly is, but we're in Central Park, if you can't tell. And I guess this is a thing on the channel now, the outdoor videos. We might as well start a collection of parks to go to, and that'll be a series. But anyway, it's quite fitting actually to what I've been thinking about for this week, which is that we're afraid to be different from other people. And that's, of course, in many ways, that's fine. But we often, because of that need, put liking ourselves below being like others. It seems to be more important to be the same or to be somewhat similar to others, more important than actually liking ourselves. Of course, many times we do things just like everyone else, and that's fine. We're happy doing that. But it happens to all of us. We see something that just isn't right, and everyone's doing it. I watched, if you watched the documentary I recommended on the community post last week, the René Girard documentary, which is, of course, good to watch for many reasons, but there was a very little thing in there, a scene where they showed some archival footage of some little social experiments they did, where they had someone walk into an elevator, just a random person, but the elevator had like 3 or 4 other people in it who were part of the experiment, and they turned around and faced the wrong way. And the person who joined them, this random person, every time, they did it multiple times, every time they would look around and just eventually decide to casually turn around also to match them. And we do that sometimes, even though it doesn't make any sense, and sometimes it just feels plain wrong and unfair, and just very, very against our human nature. Even we still would rather be like others than like ourselves. And to say the least, this is, of course, an issue for our happiness. And if you're following along on our little book club like no other, where we read a Seneca letter and then we talk about it, I usually do it here in the video, and then everyone journals. Not about it, but taking the essence of what Seneca is talking about, and then just letting your thoughts sort of come down on the page, whatever conjures up in your mind. And it's very much related to letter 29, which is this week's letter, in which Seneca points out that often what the crowd, right, the mass of people, favor is rather bad character. We have this eye for an eye mentality, or the ends justify the means mentality. As a society, everyone does this. This is everywhere in the world. And just things get out of hand. He says, which I can't quite agree with, but says it's almost impossible to be liked by others, to become popular, in a sense, in society without having a bad character. That a good character would never be known among these people because they would not recognize the person with good character. They would not like the person that's not like them. And think about how much we enable each other's vices, sins, mistakes. Simple as that. When we have an idea, when we see something around us that everyone seems to be doing, and it seems to be completely not only accepted, but encouraged, it seems to be just the way to be, but it feels totally wrong. and it's totally unethical, immoral. We say, hey, this shouldn't be that way. This is just plain wrong. Does no one else see this? They do, and we do. But when we make an effort, we quickly see how difficult it becomes to be going against the grain. And that's very natural. That's human nature. But it's possible, and we can do it, and we want to do it, and we should do it. But when we have others around us who are just the same way, it becomes very difficult to go against their grain. And these people will be our family, our friends, not people who are sort of against us and want to force us into these things. We do this to ourselves with the dearest friends and family members. We encourage each other's vices, mistakes, and we just perpetuate everything that we dislike about others and everything that we dislike about ourselves. Think of this in your own life. I'm sure you'll quickly come up with an example. It could be as simple as, I want to consume less alcohol. I want to eat less. I want to be healthier overall, whatever the issue might be. And as soon as we get together with a friend or a family member who is just like us, who should do these things, should be healthier, should be taking better care of themselves, but is not, we fall right back. It's so easy. It's so easy. And in fact, the really sad thing is that even though these are our loved ones, and again, we do the same thing. It's not just others doing this to us. We do the same thing. When we see someone else getting better, when we see someone else going against the grain and actually starting to take care of themselves in many ways, physically, mentally, whatever it may be, and just break those old habits, not only personal habits, but societal habits, we get scared. We feel a little left behind. We feel a little bit like this person is going to leave us behind. They're getting better. They're changing. They don't approve anymore of that past behavior, and that they might not approve of us soon. And again, that too is natural, and it just happens, right? And in the same way, if we decide to be that person, we've had enough of our vices, of our mistakes, of this perpetual cycle of seeing a problem, but when trying to go against the grain, failing each time. When we open our eyes, when we try to do that, others try to hold us back. It's not because they hate us or even because they don't love us. It's because they love us. They don't want to let go of us. They don't want to become people that we don't approve of anymore. And it's amazing how we treat our friends and our friends treat us like enemies. Because only enemies would want to increase the mistakes, the bad habits, the problems that their enemies have. Who would want to do that to a friend? But that's what's happening all around us. We treat our friends like enemies. And actually, our enemies, of course, we shouldn't have any enemies, but just people that we don't particularly want to have in our lives, we treat them better than our friends by leaving them alone. They're free to do whatever they want. We don't hold them back. We only hold our friends and loved ones back. How amazing is that? Of course, once we break this cycle, once we get out of that, once we let others be different, improve themselves in any way they see fit, and once we give ourselves that freedom, once we finally go against the grain, break out of that pressure and current that is flowing the opposite direction, once we do break out of that, of course, we're free. And we find others who think the same way. So we become friends with people who actually treat their friends like friends. And of course, we can take others there. It's not like others can't change, but of course, it's not good to push someone. That's also part of the letter 29 this week on Seneca. Seneca's talking about this directly in there, how one might think that we should try to improve everyone around us. If we see something wrong, that we should tell them and we should try to convince them of it. Seneca argues that that shouldn't be done with everyone. Number one, other people are free to do whatever they want, but also they might not be ready to hear that. And we might waste our efforts, our energies, our resources on people who are not ready for it, while necessarily that way withholding them from people who are ready for it and who would very much appreciate and could benefit from us breaking out of that cycle together, encouraging each other, affirming each other. So this week I want you to think about what you're holding yourself back with and what you're holding other people back with and how you're doing that, and how the people around you, your loved ones, your family, your friends, whoever, might be holding you back in that same way, even though they don't mean to. They have no malintent. No one's evil. No one's out to get you or anything like that. This happens almost out of love, like we just talked about. But that doesn't make it okay, of course. Look around yourself. It's a new year. Every day, of course, just like any other day, is an opportunity to realize this, to realize it in your mind and to realize it out in your actions on the world. Don't hold yourself back anymore. And don't hold others back because you're afraid that you'll be alone in your vices and your mistakes. Go with the person who's making that effort. If there's no one around you making that effort, don't take that as an excuse. Again, doesn't this strike you like a behavior that an enemy would do to us, rather than us doing this to ourselves and to our loved ones? We treat ourselves and the people we love like enemies. Until, of course, we stop. And the only way to stop is to lay down the excuses, to stop letting the current take us, because the current is flowing the wrong way. And to say, enough is enough. What does reason tell me? Not other people, not conventions, not traditions, not society, not my friends, not what I've been hearing, but what does reason tell me? And don't forget, it's never black or white, it's never all or nothing. You can experiment. You can say, hey, reason seems to tell me that I'm going the wrong way, that I should go this way instead. Let me walk down a few steps that path. Let me see what it's like. But give it, of course, a good chance. Make it a proper experiment. And then decide if it's the right way, and then you can commit fully. And encourage others to do it. At least don't stand in their way. Your loved ones, the people who are dear to you, don't do this to them anymore. It's easy to sit next to someone and feed their bad habits by not saying anything. It's the easiest thing to do because it requires no effort. The good thing to do, the right thing to do, is the difficult thing in this case. And it requires a lot of effort. And someone who tells you these things, who looks out for you in this way, is not your enemy. And then there's no wonder that we don't love ourselves, because we do this to ourselves. We let our bad habits sit and grow and we do nothing about them, even though we know it's wrong. So if the people we have to admit are the ones that we love the most, are the ones who have pointed out our faults to ourselves and thereby fixed them in a way, put us on the right path, there's no wonder we don't love ourselves yet, because we keep ourselves like others and we keep others like ourselves.